Hello, hello, hello. I wanted to talk about intrusive images versus thoughts, particularly related to postpartum depression. We've published a couple studies years ago related to postpartum depression, and I read recently to where they're seeing increasing rates of this. This can be one of the more troubling symptoms, and if it's not known, can be really problematic. So I just wanted to make people aware of this. Please let me know your comments. First of all, with thoughts. A thought is how I'm going to distinguish this between intrusive image and thought is that a thought can be traceable. It doesn't always have to be, but what I mean by that, if somebody is talking or with a counselor or just thinking it themselves that I feel depressed, a lot of times we can go back and say, all right, well, what was I thinking, feeling, and doing prior to having that thought? Actually going back and kind of mapping the day to look at what was going on. And for somebody, this may be just an example that, hey, prior to this thought, I was sitting for a long time, watching a depressing show. Maybe I ate a bag of chips while sitting and watching that depressing show. I also maybe have a history of negativity, hopelessness, maybe even depression. And so we could kind of go back and say, this kind of makes sense that could lead to this thought. Okay, so we can kind of map it out to look at where this maybe came from. Okay, not always the case, but that's one way thing to look at with thoughts. All right, intrusive images. A lot of times this is explained from our study participants and research I've read as it just appears out of nowhere, almost like a movie clip in the mind, and kind of difficult to trace, that folks can't really track back like, what would have caused this? Now, in the case of postpartum depression, there's a lot of things that could cause this, and let's just look at a few of them here. If you're sleep deprived, sleep deprivation on itself can create perceptual disturbances. If you're stressed, physically in pain, hormonally imbalanced, and think about this with kids, societal expectation is after giving birth that, y'all are bonding and it's the strongest love you've ever felt and so forth. So you've got these expectations that everything should be peachy, when actually you're also experiencing a lot of these things that it would almost be unusual for you not to have troubling emotions or thoughts after experiencing this. And yet society is saying, wow, everything's great right now, isn't it? And it can be at the same time. You can be fully and completely in love and enamored with your child and also be experiencing this. Now, some of the most common postpartum intrusive images that people have, again, just showing up in the mind like a movie clip or a photo, is suffocating, dropping, stabbing, slamming, hitting, even molesting. Now, can you imagine going through all of this and then experiencing this? And if you didn't know that these are common intrusive images, just how scary and frightening that would be. I do want to say this is one of the reasons I am a big fan of integrated care, that we have behavioral health professionals working within all the medical provider communities, especially pediatricians' offices, because I still hear from folks that have given birth that are not being screened for postpartum depression. And by screening, I mean using some type of brief assessment. The brief assessment alone by your pediatrician would say, hey, guess what? This can happen. This is common. Let's just see where your level is so that we can see what we need to do to make sure you're getting the care you need. So I do believe that needs to happen. And also there's some research, by the way, medical providers out there, there's research suggesting that when you have a behavioral health provider in your office, it actually allows you to make more money because you're seeing more clients. I know it's not a money thing, but that when issues come up that need to be addressed by a behavioral health provider, either an assessment to determine how severe this is, monitoring if somebody's put on medication, and receiving counseling, that frees the medical provider up to see more clients. So just know that. I have not put this here, but one thing we found in our research is that some common coping skills, first and foremost, is they want to be able to talk about these things with their medical providers. So again, screening. Second, time away, being able to have some time away from their child. Support groups in counseling. These were some of the most common coping skills used. I hope this kind of clarifies a little bit the difference between intrusive images and thoughts. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap as well. Let me know your comments, and I look forward to talking to you on the next video.